Hello, everyone. My name is Edith, also known as Lady E, and welcome to the Lady E Effect podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, we interview purpose-driven professionals that do amazing contributions to people, businesses, and communities worldwide. If that's something that's interesting for you, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please follow us on all social media platforms at the Lady E Effect and also connect with us on our audio platforms such as Spotify, Apple, Audible, and we will have the additional platforms in our description box. So, for those that know me, we have been having an amazing time in our season 4. Shout out to all of our amazing guests and all of our previous guests before. And we appreciate all of the supporters for tuning in, subscribing, sharing, leaving comments, and please continue to do so. We are here to serve our people, and those that know me know that I love to get right into it. We interview the best of the best, and of course, today is nothing different from that. So, without taking any more time, thank you so much for joining us. Please introduce yourself and let us know who you are.
Yes. Hello everyone. My name is JT Mugabo. Yeah, that's short name. So the long is Jean Theodoric Mugabo. So I'm basically a real estate investor. I'm global, so I do real estate in the USA, in Europe, in countries such as France, Belgium, and Luxembourg. And I also happen to do in Africa as well, most particularly in Rwanda. And since 2022, I moved to the USA, in order to level up my game when it comes to real estate. And before that, I was working as an investment banker, for 10 years, which helped me actually basically starting to invest in real estate. I bought one apartment, then bought one building, and then bought two, and then I didn't stop. So I like to level up my game each time in everything that I do. And the fact of being here in the US or with you, Edit, it's also a proof for me that I'm improving my game. So I like that, and I love this.
Yes. Well, we appreciate you being on our platform. Sounds like you've been doing a lot of amazing things prior to joining us here in the US. So definitely like to get right into that. So my first question for you is definitely with you sharing a little bit about your background operating in the space of real estate, and even coming from that financial aspect of being a banker. Would you like to share with the audience, what inspired you ultimately? You're welcome to share some details about your background that ultimately inspired you to where you're operating at this current time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So my back from it actually goes from a long time ago. So for those, so I'm actually Rwandan origin. So I was born in Rwanda, and then so my parents were workers, but they were doing a lot of projects, right? So as far as I remember, since I was young, there was always a construction project going home. So naturally, there was a real estate embedded in me. I didn't do real estate for all. I never thought it was something I would like, right? But I know that from there, I already knew that I liked, seeing buildings changing, the color changing. So, I was born in Rwanda, and then, obviously when I was 10, the genocide of the Tutsi happened, and I fled. I have to leave the country. So I arrived in France as a refugee when I was 13 years old. And from there, I started to go to school like everyone, you know. And I was lucky enough to, to be able to go at university. In France, the good thing is like school is free. That's a good thing. So it's free. And so as much as I was going to school, I was doing some other business too. So I learned earning money since ever I was young. And my first business I made, I was almost 8 years old. I was buying chicks, small chicks, from the market. I would buy them for like at that time it was the equivalent of 50 Rwandan francs. And then I would grow them using the food that we use at home. And then it would grow into big kitchen. And my main client were my parents. So my parents would finance it. It was hard because selling one chicken because I kind of get attached to them. Each time I was crying. So they used to pay me and tell me that I'll find the chicken in another world, when I die, basically. Oh yeah. So with that said, when I was in France, and for those who grew up in France, I don't know, it's a particular environment for a black person, especially at that time. Now it's getting better, but at that time it was really tough. So when I finish, so when I was at university, I was like, wait, I need to improve my level, you know. So first, I didn't speak English. I needed to learn English. I needed to keep going in my studies. So for me, I took the shoot to go study in England, right? Because I was like, I always take shoots, but it's always calculated, you know. I never take, I'm a risky person. A lot of people will tell you that I'm a risky, but it's always calculated risk at a level. So when I decided to go in England, I was like, okay, let me go in England. I studied the university. Worst case scenario, I learned English. In which case, I knew it's going to help me because I always thought about coming in the USA, you know, always, you know, it was in my mind. So I go there and I got the master's degree. You know, obviously it took me 3 years and I got the master's degree. And once I finished the master's degree, I was looking for a job, but it was back in 2010. That was after the crisis. So I was looking, I finished a degree in engineering business management. And I was looking, so my particularity is like I'm very aggressive in everything that I do. So many people would be looking job in France and then just stuck to it. So I was looking in France, in England, in Belgium, in Netherlands, and Luxembourg. And I was sending tons of CVs, like 40 CVs per day. So the result was I got tons of interviews. There was so many interviews. I think I did like 45 interviews before I get my first job.
Mm.
So I got the so I got interviews in Paris, in Brussels, and I got lucky. One interview was in Brussels. He was a guy who was basically who would never give me a shot. But this guy studied in the same university that I studied. That's what changed the game for me. Because he was like, okay, you studied in this city too. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm from there. And then we just became friends from that. He's like, okay, I'm gonna give you a shot. You don't have experience. You're gonna work with us. So that's how I started like in investment banking. So I was what do we call a sales equity derivative. So basically, it's if you know like in investment banking, you have a trader buy and sells, you know, deals, you know, equity on the market, like stocks or bonds. And then he has a sales like me, who's a person who's going to bring the clients to buy those deals. So the clients are going to be private banks or even insurance. You know, a lot of us put money in insurance. All this money is put into investment. So these investments, I'm the guy who goes for those funds and then make them buy, you know, the stocks that we have.
Mm.
So I do that for 2 years. It was a contract of 2 years term. So I was getting by the end of the contract, they didn't let me know, but you know me, so I was on the move. So I was like, okay, you know what? I always dreamed in working in Luxembourg. For those who don't know, Luxembourg is the richest country on earth. The average salary in Luxembourg is $100,000.
Mm.
So to give you an example, the US is $40,000. It's less than half.
Mhm.
So my calculation was that if I go to work in Luxembourg, in any position, I will be making the double of anyone who's here in Brussels, right?
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, I start looking for a job and I find a job because I had now experience. I found a job in the same company, actually, but in another country. So I moved to this country, Luxembourg, which is an amazing country, by the way, because everything is like, I was clever because my Luxembourg is expensive. Houses worth, you can't find a detached house for less than $1 million. It's impossible.
Mhm.
Apartments are worth already $1 million, like all across the country. So my technique was to live in the Belgium side, which would decrease my rent by third.
Mhm.
And so I worked there and I was getting paid. It was $5,000. My rent was $500 a month. And the cost of living, I mean, and aside from the rent, you know, the cost of living, food is cheap in Europe. Food is cheap and it's good. So I was basically saving a lot of money. I started to watch videos on YouTube on how to invest in real estate.
Mhm.
Started to watch them, but I was still scared because, you know, there was a point. I don't know if it's my African side or I don't know what I've been taught since I was young. It's like to never get in debt, you know. So for me, since I could never get in debt, I was like, real estate is not for me. So I never looked at real estate because I knew like I would never be able to save $100,000 to buy a small apartment. So I let it go and I started watching a guy on YouTube. It's a French guy who was teaching how to invest. Kept watching him until a moment where I thought, like, you know, the debt, that's true. I help people selling debt. I help people buying and selling debt on the markets in Luxembourg. Why should I be scared of debt?
Mm.
And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy, but it has to bring cash flow in. So that's where I bought my first property in 2015. It was an apartment. And I got it for cheap because no one was buying at that time. This is why I was lucky. And then when I had the code for construction, the guy told me $36,000. I looked at it, I was like, no, this is impossible. So I grew up in a difficult area, right? In France. So I went in my difficult area and brought 10 of my guys, in two different cars. And we stuck there for 2 weeks and we finished the reconstruction, the construction. It only costed me like half of the price they were asking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Put the apartment to rental, and then I was like, okay, I don't want to keep buying apartments because if I buy, because I really wanted to buy, like there was a lot of things to sell. At that time, I got married too at the same time, and then so now I was like, I was watching video on how to buy buildings. I was scared, but it was also there was an ego thing on me getting a building. In my head, I was like, maybe there'll be a building, man, there will be JT on it.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, in any case. So, but I found a building actually for $260,000, but there was no buyer. There was many problems. I negotiated at 210, but it was actually bringing a revenue already. It was already cash flowing from day one. So I bought it. It didn't cost me that much. The debt I was paying is $800, which is the same today. And this building now is bringing 4.2K per month, and it's now worth in the $750,000 because I bought it cheap. I kept improving it. And then
Mm-hmm.
from that building, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna keep buying buildings. So what I'm gonna do a construction project. So I didn't know shit about construction project, but I looked for information and bam bam, I learned how to buy land. I learned how to value and see how a project would work. And when I did the when I looked at the feasibility of the thing, I was like, I didn't have money, I couldn't make it because for doing those type of deals, you need to secure the land and you need to probably finance the construction, but you still need to build the land to get the land. But my technique now was, okay, I'm not going to do the development project, but I'm going to structure it and sell it to someone else. That's where the magic happens because now I could go and see a owner, negotiate the terms on his land, right? And then put enough contingency period for me to go run at the council, pay $10,000, and run for the permit. Once I get the permit, I have the contract of the owner, I have the permit, and then I can sell that permit plus the contract to someone else, making a difference. And it was way more money than just buying one apartment or two, right? So I did one project and I did another one, which was a huge one actually. But then I started to develop for myself. So I developed two projects on my own company. One of them, when it finished, I loved it so much that I kept it. Then I started to rent one full Airbnb. So so you have to imagine in 2015, everyone was selling. Interest rates were really low, which means I had interest rates. My lowest interest rate is 0.70%.
Mm-hmm.
But then real estate is a cycle. The cycle changed, and now everyone wants to buy now. So we got in 2022, everyone is buying, right? So I had put my properties on Airbnb. Yeah, the lockdown happens, all my revenue from Airbnb go to waste, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
have to change the model and put the normal rental, which was a struggle. And then when the COVID happened, basically I did one couple operations during the COVID, but mostly I was helping people to develop project. I was teaching people how to develop those type of projects. COVID finished, and I was like, okay. I mean, I was in Belgium and Luxembourg. Me and my cousin, we were bored. We bought a company which is called Little Green Box. We deliver organic food meal that is sourced from local farmers. So it's a startup that was collapsing. We bought it at a cheap price. We bought it for $30,000, which is nothing. We saved it from bankruptcy and basically starting investing. It's now a company that makes $5 million a year, and it's actually delivering all across Belgium. And so when it started, it was a challenge because I'm like, I have my real estate, my rental income is coming. I was consultant in Luxembourg. I was earning more than $1,000 a day, in Luxembourg. So I was like, what am I gonna do? So money didn't matter at that time. So I was like, I'm gonna focus on Little Green Box. I focus on Little Green Box. We grow it, and once we grown it, I got bored again. That's me. But then I was like, the option I always dreamed was to come in the USA. But I'll be honest with you, I have always been scared of the USA because starting from zero and hearing what I hear from other people. I'm sorry, my phone keep ringing. I have to cut it off. So I always dreamt about coming in the USA. Don't get me wrong, right? But now the problem is all the people who came here in the USA, they struggled. So they told me all those adventures. But
Mm,
when 22, I mean, after the COVID happened, I was like, you know what? Why not give him 2 years? I have nothing to lose. I can go there and I can see what happens because you never know until you're on the field. So I started to watch a lot of, TikTok, video, YouTube, how to invest. So I learned basically the market before getting here. So I
mm,
know how to source information. So before getting here, yeah, I knew like most loans, how you can get a property for cheap. I knew all these cheap tricks. So
mhm,
then I moved here. So the visa got accepted. I moved here 2022 August. Then I started renting an apartment. I was like, it was $2,000 per month. I was like, it's too expensive, and I need to own something. But I learned that from a bank. He told me they could give me an FHA loan, even though I come from elsewhere. If I'm able to prove 4 years of revenue and tax returns, they're able to finance me using FHA. I was like, okay. Then I started looking for a property. So I look for properties. I find one with the owner. So my interest is always owner who have problem, who needs to sell, and who needs me to solve the problem. So I find this owner. Um, he inherited the property. He wasn't living in there. The property was starting to. It was still livable, but it was starting to get rot because no one was taking care of it. I
mm,
look at it. He was selling at $360,000. But the after repair value is 520. So I did my calculation, minus the rehab costs, which cost me around 100,000. And then instead of buying at 350, which I could, but I bought it at 270, right? And he has to pay the closing costs, which means on the table, when I came to close on this property, I only bought $10,000, the 3.5% advance on the FHA. That's what I brought in. And so that was 3 months after I got in the US. And then, I mean, basically the property, this is the one actually. This is the one I'm still living there. I'm gonna sell it
mm,
and profit. And then the interest is me, I buy how, I mean, I flip houses, right? But I still buy each time I have to live in a house, hold it for some times, make sure I buy it cheap. And then when I sell it, I make profit. There is no tax. And this works for all the countries that are Western countries. So when I sell this one in the next coming month, I'll move into another one and keep repeating it. But
mm,
that ensures me to have constant, cash that I can put in the properties too.
mm,
So yeah, so then again to USA, and then so I didn't know anything, but I was like, I want to do deals, and I find this company that were making distress deals. I was like, I need to learn before I start doing my own because I don't know anything. So I contact the owner of the company. I'm like, hey, I've been doing real estate for a long time. I can make you make money. He was like, hey, you're very arrogant. I was like, I don't even need to show you my track record, but if you hire me within the next 3 months, I'll be your top guy. So he caught his eye. The guy was like, 1 month later, he called me. He's like, you know what? I'm ready to start to take you because you have balls. It was a come at the office. When I went at the office, I was dressed like a French guy, obviously. Obviously they liked me, but one of the boss was like, I don't think it's gonna work because this guy barely speak English. And then it's a sales, company. We need to buy deals and then sell them. It's basically a wholesaling company.
mhm,
I was like, they doubted, but anyways, I got there first month. I learned. I learned. But anyway, real estate. The good thing about real estate is like it's universal. It's a numbers game. It's a people's name. If you are, it's a people's thing. If you're a people's person and you're a numbers person, it will always work. So
mm,
that's my point. So it worked for me. Obviously, after 1 month and a half, I closed my first deal. It was a small deal. It made the company and I didn't money. But my second deal was the biggest deal they ever did in a company in Washington, D.C. So I done a deal for them, which I made $150,000 in less than 24 hours.
mm,
Yeah, so I was the biggest deal I ever done. And then for them too, it was a record. So and from there, from that day on, there was no month I didn't make 100K in a row. So did so for 2 months and then 100K, bam, 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 bam. And then after 6 months, I was like, hey, look, I'm making all this money for them. And then they're taking a lot of profit, but why shouldn't I? I didn't even start negotiating, hey, I need more money or anything. I was like, hey, I need to leave because, I need to build my own.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, no, you need to stay. We can pay you more. They start treating me. They were like, you can't do real estate anyway because you have this contract. We're going to block you. I was like, you know what? We'll see what the court says. I'm out. So I went out. Before I move out, I closed 2 deals, in the same week. Yeah. So I dropped the mic saying, okay. And then I started my own company. Basically, I started my own company from scratch. I knew how to find deals. I just had my time and effort to find the deals and execute them.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, since I'm new in the USA, the thing is I'm very big into networking. So I started to network like heavily. So to network with agents, for example, I would go into 2 events per week and I will heavily network on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, any hashtag that comes out that is for real estate. So my strategy is, I call it how to network like Casanova is I take the hashtag like real estate in DC. I see the people who are coming off the first, and I'm gonna call them. I have a coffee with them. I discuss with 5 people, and I already have gathered enough information to understand the market in reality, not on the internet. And then once I have those, then I just need to network now with normal agents that can get me deals, because most of my deals comes from agents. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that's where I started, and now it's been a year and a half. This year we closed 38 deals. Yeah, 38 deals. And I have a team of 4 people who are in Philippines, one person who's in Rwanda, and then one person who's here doing acquisition for properties. And me, I'm balancing in between. So at the same time, I have my company that does wholesale. I do also fix and flip. So with another company, so I raise money from private investor like anyone, and then put this money into flips and then split the profit you know, with whoever want to invest in this type of project.
Wow. That is amazing. That is
That
very,
was very long. That was very long.
it was, and not in a bad way. It's actually good that the audience is able to hear from what you shared, where you are now, and just even like you said, in a year and a half prior to, what took place back in 2010, what took place back in 2020, what took place back in 2022. There's a lot of things that having faith, having a certain mindset, having a confidence but authority, understanding the power of learning skill sets, observing your environment, not being afraid to learn. And fear is something that doesn't come with the territory, but the honesty of being somewhat of fearful, but that being more of a motivator versus like
Mhm.
you're just kind of stuck in fear. That is a very necessary and important areas of elements that you shared in your background because real estate, like you said, is universal. Definitely is a numbers game. Definitely is people oriented from the commercial, the um, home side, the business side, the corporate side. There's a lot of different um, diversities that affect all of us. You need property to do something, whether it's for a home to live in, whether it's for a business to run, whether it's for an event to establish, right, or launch. You do need property, and that's biblical too. So, thank you for sharing all of what you have. I have about 1 or 2 questions before we round up. Definitely. My question for you, second to last question for you is with all of what you shared, definitely inspiring. How would you articulate the importance of what you do as that pertains to the community?
As it pertains to, well, actually, we do a lot of stuff for community because actually since I've been here, first, I always been a community guy. So if you go back in the city where I was living in Belgium, most people who looking for an apartment, they will ask for me.
Mhm.
And African people generally. You know why? Because it's harder for them to get apartments. So
Mhm.
me, usually I struggled a lot, through how many different countries, which helped me to relate to other African. So most time, the way I'm impactful is by advising most times. We also do like some events, I don't with Easy, where we do the home buying seminar where we teach people how to buy a house, sell a house, flip a house. And since I've been in the USA, I've been connecting with the African community, in order to, because I think that actually we lack of one thing, the African people, is like we don't share information. And when we do, even when we do, most times people always feel like when you share information, you're losing something. But I always think the pipe is bigger, the cake is bigger, The more information you share, the more people can do it. And but the higher they get, the better I'm gonna get too, because it's easier to deal with people than you don't. But aside, I would say having to be immigrant in 6 countries, I would say that it's important to stay close to the people who are successful and not demean them, because these people are usually most times are willing to help.
Hmm.
They can actually level up your game and give you the informations that you don't want. So the difference now, because I'm coming from, these are socialist country. We in America. In America, it's a country of dreams. This is why I came here. I could have just stayed where I am, all right, and still be off. All right. But America is a country of informations. Therefore, by the information, you can change your life. You know, it
Hmm.
might not be the case in other country. So if you tend to be the person who get the information, you'll be like, okay, I have my job, I have my thing. That's good. But I want to learn anything else. It could be real estate, it could be cars, whatever it is. It could be chat GTP, it could be, but to elevate the game and then try to learn something outside of the normal routine and a skill that will pay you in the long run. Because I don't know, I have some friends here who works they did Uber for 10 years. So I told them, he was telling me, you're lucky you don't do Uber. I'm like, hey, it's not that I'm lucky. I will never do Uber 10 years in my life. You know why? Because I know that my time and my information has value, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's green money and yellow money. And when you go for yellow money, it's usually a struggle. You have to keep paying your bills and. So so for the community, when it comes to the DMV, I'm ready to help when it comes to any African who wants to have advice on how to invest or to buy a house or even as mindset in general.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mm. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. You do a lot for the community, even before I ask that question. So I know those that will tune in to our program will be really inspired and motivated to definitely um, utilize a lot of what you shared today and what we do in business, how we articulate and practice in business and professional affairs comes back to the community. It affects the lives of the people. It does affect their mindset outside of inspire and motivate, but definitely, we're supposed to lead, right, by example, right? So definitely with all you shared would definitely be inspiring, whether you're looking to operate in real estate, you're already operating real estate, or just in other areas of business, having a mindset of faith, gratitude, wisdom, being intentional about how to strategically implement information once you obtain it. I think that's also super important too, because you can learn whatever you want to learn, but if you're not practicing it, you're wasting the knowledge, and that's not what we're here to do. So, we really appreciate you sharing all of what you have so far. And my final question for you today is here on the Lady E Effect. Of course, we love to talk about personal development. We're here to talk about business, success, business solutions, definitely community impact, community transformation to be exact. When you think about the word purpose, we're very intentional about purpose, legacy, fulfilling your destiny, doing what you're called to do, right? And that can be a diversity of things. And business is a very biblical and rewarding area of service that we're called to fulfill. So if you
Mhm.
could use the word purpose in a sentence, how would you use that for the audience?
In one sentence,
Yes.
yeah, I would say, we were brought here in the world to fit our purpose, even though we get caught up into the messy of the daily basis. We forget about it. But I like that question. It's something I wonder every day, actually.
Mm.
But I think I know what's my purpose, because I know what's my purpose. I thought about it for a long time. I was listening to this podcast, the guy was saying, what it is that you want, If money was no object, because today in real estate we're trying to make money, but what if money was no object? What would you do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for my example, I think I would still be doing real estate because I like people and I will still be doing real estate. Or I will be teaching young children in Africa, somewhere in the jungle, on how to develop the game worldwide. Yeah, you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
I believe that the future of the world is in Africa. The future of the world is in Africa. And I tell any Nigerian people I see, I always tell them, hey, Nigeria is the sleeping giant, you know. You see what I mean? Nigeria is the sleeping giant. There is 240 million people, less than 15, 16 years old. In one of it's a country that is meant to be more powerful than the US. So, but that's my point, but you will see it in the future. And I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow you see one Nigerian name just right by the capital there, as a president. You
Mm-hmm.
see what I mean? You guys are everywhere. You get everywhere in all the countries. So is your future sleeping giant? I mean, I'm 100% sure. I know it's messy. There is politics. There is all that you're gonna say, but there is a fact that you can't change is generational. Money has to transfer from one generation to another. There is no generation that dies with money. It's impossible. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Japanese people are old. They're not gonna die with that money. US people are that. So that money at some point there is some mechanism of adjustment that is going to make that this money is transferred to younger people.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing is now to figure out how, they're
Mm-hmm.
going to receive it. But then how it will happen, even though, we see things not going the way it should be.
Mm. Very, very powerful statement. All valid points. The Bible talks about walk by faith, not by sight. So there's a lot of things that happen that make sense, doesn't make sense. But naturally, like you said, a sleeping giant. Bible talks a lot about those that many times God used to others that may not have seemed qualified, that
Mhm.
qualified in his eyes, which is very different than the perception of what us as humans have. So I love the fact that you touch bases on that because, being Igbo Nigerian myself and being born and raised in the
Mhm.
Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia region, um, and specifically understanding, everyone does not have the same opportunities wherever they reside, and utilizing a space like the U.S., but also understanding the powerful force that Africa in general has always carried as a continent first. And then, of course, when you break it down, country and things of that nature. Nigeria is very notable. Of course, in general, all countries in Africa. I want to definitely highlight that as well.
Mhm.
Everything that you mentioned with your experience, I can definitely attest to that. There's a driving force when it comes to Nigerians and just African
And
people.
then, and then the driving force is not only reflecting financially, it's reflecting culturally, culturally, the music that you're listening is Nigerian now. The movie is Nigerian, right? And then also, I mean, at a certain level, I mean, there is other elements of soft power, of influence that Nigeria has. So I'll be honest with you, like after I lived in it's um, four Western country, but the one that I found the most strongest African community is the US, and I can see because I'm in real estate, I do deals, and sometimes like the guy who I just went to see, he was a Nigerian who was flipping properties.
Hmm.
When I check, he has like tons of properties, but no other Nigerian would know. He just tell me, no, don't tell Nigerian, you know.
Hmm.
You see what I mean? But because I'm Rwandan, he's like, okay, he can know. But like there is a lot of people doing things. It's just that they're not doing it together. And then this is a fact that this is a problem that African people will carry. And I think we need to change our narrative because if other people can do it, we can.
Hmm.
And it's easier I mean, it's we have many different commonalities, culturally as well, which also goes into our direction.
Hmm. For sure.
Yeah.
All powerful points, and in general, it's very important for us as people, right? Before ethnicity, color, race, because I believe this is somewhat applicable to African Americans as well. But just in general, we need to come together more. We're a stronger force when we're unified and, provide that value that's necessary for our communities. So we appreciate you for joining us today. This has definitely
Thank
been
you.
a blessing to hear you speak in all the amazing ways that you've contributed to people, businesses, and communities through real estate and just various perspectives in business. Obviously, you operate as a businessman beyond real estate. But for anyone that's looking to get in touch with you, how would they get in touch with you?
You can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is JT seulement. JT SEULEMT. My name is JT Mugabo. Also, if you search JT Mugabo, you can find it. Don't hesitate if you have a question, you can just DM me on any social media platform.
Mhm.
I'm on there. If you want to learn more about real estate, also you can follow me on there. I share a lot of info about what you can do, what you can't, and but in the next coming month I will be creating my community online, like school community. It's just about to share tips and tricks on how you can get deals on the DMV, expecting that a lot of people will join so they can make deals as well, as a side hustle. You would rather have making deals as a side hustle than Uber or
Yeah.
Lyft.
For sure. Well, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Definitely connect with JT. He has a lot of amazing value and services to provide to you all. And for those, again, please subscribe to your YouTube channel and connect with us on all social media and audio platforms. Once again, Edith Nwosu, also known as Lady E, is my name. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, take care. Bye.
Bye bye.